Thanks for joining us again on Welcome to America, an immigrant story and part four of Maria's story. If you missed the first three parts, you'll want to go to our channel and watch those so you can have the most of this out of this segment. While you're there, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on some really great stories and information. Who knows? You might discover the solution to your own immigration problem, and we may be saying to you, Welcome to America. Okay, so where do we leave off with Maria? Maria lives in Guatemala with her husband, who is a U.S. citizen. Her husband became abusive, so Maria fled to America with her youngest child, leaving her older child, who has cerebral palsy. She had made her way to New York and is now living with her aunt in New Jersey. We talked about how she may qualify for VAWA because of the abusive situation with her husband, and how her children are already U.S. citizens because her husband's a U.S. citizen. Now I'm going to bring back Andres Mayer, New Jersey immigration attorney and immigration advocate, to talk about what the VAWA process looks like, how long it will take, and how much it costs. All right, so Andres, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to putting a bow on Maria's situation, explaining how she gets her green card and the investment that she's going to have to make in order to get there.
All right, so things are looking pretty good for her. Sounds like she has a real chance of getting legal status in the U.S. So Andres, what does she need to do to get the VAWA process started?
Well, she needs to get a really good attorney. I mean, I hate to say that. And not to pat myself on the back. That's not the point. Is she doesn't know what she doesn't know. Like, before she meets an attorney, she might not even know that VAWA is an option. When she speaks to an asylum officer or Customs Border Patrol agent, they may not tell her that VAWA is an option. So it's possible she comes in asking for asylum, gets released, goes to New Jersey, then consults with an attorney, and only then finds out that VAWA is even an option. So let's start first with asylum. Under the present rules, she needs to file an asylum application. It's Form I-589 before her 1-year deadline, meaning 1-year anniversary from when she entered the United States. Now, Customs and Border Patrol is supposed to tell her that. There was litigation under the Trump administration because the Trump administration was purposely not informing that and actually telling, oh, wait until you go to court, which often was more than a year afterwards, and when she would have already lost her opportunity. That, believe it or not, was happening. Litigation has resolved that. So on the asylum, well, from our perspective, in terms of what we charge based on what we do. And every case is a little bit different. So what I look at is an analysis tool that I created. I call the 953 method. There are 9 principal paths to legal status. So VAWA is one, asylum is another. There's 9 total. Each one of them has a different process and a different price. Then is there anything in her past that disqualifies her? Being in removal is one of them. Then is there a way to fix that? So in the asylum and asylum context only, there's a fee for the application. There's a fee for every time we go to court, and there's a fee for trial, because filing the application with the evidence and then filing with the documentation necessary for trial. So it's a lot of work at the beginning and a lot of work at the end. And sometimes there's multiple court appearances in between. So when the system is working correctly, maybe she has 3 or 4 court appearances. All of that happens within a year. Well, now the average wait time for someone in removal is, and for asylum, is 4.5 to 5 years. So that could be multiple court appearances where nothing is really happening. And we can't get a trial date, but the court wants us to keep on coming, or the government has questions, or they need something, or they don't have their file, whatever the reason is. So we charge a fee for each time we go to court, and then we charge a fee before we go do the last trial. There's motions that need to be done. There's briefs. There's evidence that needs to be accumulated. And if the asylum application was filed initially, and now we're 4 or 5 years later, it could be she's now married. It could be she has other kids. It could be her circumstances have evolved. Maybe the threat has only increased. Depending on her circumstances. So the application needs to be updated, and then it needs to be prepared for that final trial, which includes affidavits, includes witness prep, maybe getting experts and prepping those experts, and then showing up and presenting the trial. So that's the asylum. That's also assuming there's nothing that disqualifies her. Crimes, prior orders of removal, that might need to be fixed. Now, and then there's, well, who else is claiming with her? So if it's just her, fee doesn't change. If it's her and spouse, there's an additional fee. If it's her and child, again, in this example, Maria is, her children are US citizens. So they're listed in the application, but they don't actually need the benefit. But what happens, but Lupe is not in the United States, right? So let's say she goes to trial and she wins trial, Lupe is outside the United States. Now, she would then need to follow to join. I was just asked this question yesterday. Well, what do I do if I'm running away from my spouse and the child is in Guatemala and I don't have legal custody of the child? Well, that's a problem, because I can help you win your asylum, but I can't get you legal custody in Guatemala for your child. Now, in the example that we have, Lupe is with her grandmother, which is Maria's parents. So they can get the passport for her. They can take her to the US Embassy, where she will get a stamp on her passport, and then will have to travel to the United States. Now, if Maria is filing for asylum, she can't really go back to Guatemala to pick up her child. So how does her child get here? Interesting question. Someone's going to have to help her, because Lupe, not only does she have cerebral palsy, she's also 2 years old. She's not going to be able to travel back and forth on her own. So sometimes it's a relative or a family friend that has to apply for a visa in order to bring her to the US, right? Now, how much does that cost? It depends. For us, every court appearances is $1,500 to $2,000. There's an application fee. So that could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Depends on who's filing. Is it just Maria? Is it Maria's spouse? Is it Maria's spouse and children? So there's a fee for each additional person, because there's more work and there's more paperwork. But for every person like spouse, we have to do the same analysis. What's their path? Is there something that disqualifies them? And can we fix it? So Maria is the principal beneficiary here. Her kids don't need it. It would just be her. But let's say she was filing for asylum with her spouse, not from her spouse, right? Let's say she's from Venezuela and the government has cracked down on them for their political opinion. So they're both here. So there's a fee for her and for him. And then there's multiple witnesses that have to present. So the fees go up across the board. Now, how many court appearances? So the application itself, again, 5,000 to 10,000, depending on who it includes. Typically, it's 65 to 7,000. But again, it really depends on the specific scenario. Now, if we're prepared and if everything goes our way, so you have a $6,000 to $7,000 application fee, you have one court appearances, let's say it's $1,500, and then you have the trial fee, which right now is about $5,000. So you're looking at $11,000 to $13,000 for Maria over the course of the next couple of years. Some things have to be done up front, some things can be paid over time. We typically start with the first court appearances and the application fee. And then we worry about the trial when we actually have a trial date. That may be years in the future. VAWA, different scenario, but same analysis. Again, 953. So now the path is VAWA. What disqualifies? Well, she's in removal. All right, we got to deal with that. But there's nothing else. So she's still going to have to go to court. Every court appearance, $1,500, $2,000. There's an application fee for VAWA, but here it's not one application, it's multiple applications. Remember, VAWA has two basic components: documented relationship and extreme cruelty, and the change of status. Each one is about $3,500 plus the filing fee to immigration. But again, is it just her or is it also her kids? Now, if we're including the kids, let's say they're not US citizens, there's a fee for each of them. But are they adult children, meaning like 15, 16, 17? An immigration adult is over 21. So maybe that's the wrong choice of words. Are they inside the United States? Are they outside the United States? Because there's different fees. So I-360, initially the kids are listed. There isn't a separate application for each child. But if they're outside, then once that's approved, now in her situation, again, in removal, files the I-360, USCIS adjudicates it, approves it. Now we have to file to terminate proceedings. There's a fee for that. Typically $3,000, $3,500. In the family-based scenario, in a VAWA scenario, almost every component is $3,500. So I-360 or I-130, documenting the relationship, if it's just a family-based application, or if it's a VAWA scenario, is about $3,500. Again, prices do change. Now, if the adjustment of status is also about $3,500, plus whatever the government charges. If we have to terminate proceedings, it's $3,000, $3,500. If we have to go to court, it's $1,500, $2,000. If we have to go for an interview, it's $1,500, $2,000. If we have to do a jail visit, it's $1,500, $2,000. Where do I get that? It's a half-day fee, basically. If me or my attorneys are going with some to court, it's half day. If we're going to see someone in jail, it's half a day. If we're appearing at an interview at a USCIS office, it's half a day. So there's that half a day fee, $1,500, $2,000. And then there's the application itself. Again, we haven't touched is there anything that disqualifies? Here is for her, it's removal. So we're asking the judge to terminate proceedings. That doesn't happen in asylum. In asylum, there's gonna be a trial. You're really not making that request. But in the VAWA scenario, you will. So at the end of the day, now, if there are prior applications before, let's say she had a tourist visa and she's been in the United States, I may want a copy of all those applications because I want to see absolutely everything the government has on Maria. I don't want to show up to an interview and only find I didn't know something that they did, and then I couldn't fix it in advance. So we charge a background search fee to order all of that. And it's 7 immigration agencies, and with FBI and motor vehicle, could be 9 or 10 agencies. Again, the fee varies depending on what it is we're asking for. It's typically anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, depending on we asking for everything or are we only asking for something. If all she has is a tourist visa and 1 or 2 entries, well, there's USCIS for the tourist visa, and there's Department of State for the entries and exits, and maybe Customs and Border Patrol. Maybe that's 3 agencies. If she's only been here a month, I don't need FBI. I don't need motor vehicle because, well, she hasn't been here to do that. But if she's been here multiple years and there's prior maybe criminal conduct or allegations of criminal conduct, I want FBI and I want motor vehicle. Why motor vehicle? Because in New Jersey, DUI, although immigration considers it a serious offense, New Jersey only considers it a traffic violation. It doesn't mean that consequences aren't severe. They can. Loss of license, jail, large fines. But again, in New Jersey, it's a traffic violation. It's not a felony. It's not a misdemeanor. It's a traffic violation. So if I order her FBI record, that may not show up. I have to independently order her motor vehicle history to make sure that there is no DUI that would disqualify her or cause her problems. But either way, on the VAWA scenario, just for her, she's probably looking at $9,500 to $11,000. So for her, no, maybe $13,000. Again, depending motions, anywhere from 11 to 13. VAWA could actually be cheaper because she doesn't have the trial fee. Even though it's the VAWA application itself, $3,500, waiver, I'm sorry, not a waiver, asking that the judge terminate proceedings, maybe another $3,500, and then the change of status, $3,500, and maybe an interview and a motion to change venue. So it could wind up being the same or slightly cheaper. Her kids are U.S. citizens. They don't need anything. Let's assume that they don't. Well, her daughter would be included in her VAWA application. The I-360, no additional fee. The green card application, the I-45, she would likely have to file one for her and for her daughter. So there's a nominal fee that we charge for that, but the government will charge filing fees for both, which right now is $1,250 for the green card. Because of her situation, maybe she could request a fee waiver. Maybe she might get it, she might not. They're more considerate in a VAWA scenario. But look, either way she's looking at it, this is about a $10,000 to $15,000 case, depending on whether it's asylum or VAWA, depending on how many court appearances she has to go to, depending on whether her kids are included or not. And that's why it becomes complicated. So when someone calls and say, hey, how much does it cost? It's never how much does it cost. And nobody on my team can actually give them a price without having the 953 analysis, because every one of those 9 has a different price. Then we don't know what about their past that could disqualify them. It could be a waiver. It could be removal. It could be reopening something. It could be having to overcome a prior denied application. Whatever it is, we got to deal with that. And then there's are there any other relatives? And do we have to order any additional documents? Do we have to do any additional work because of something in her past or her relatives' past? And that's why it becomes difficult to say, hey, this is just $1,000 or $5,000 or $6,000, because there is no such thing as a simple case. Everything has become harder with immigration, lasts longer, and costs more.
Okay. And so I guess when we look at it, just a scenario-based question, right? So let's say Maria came up with the fees tomorrow. How long would this process take? Would she have to wait years for legal status?
Well, VAWA scenario is usually 2 or 3 years. That's just how long it's taken them to adjudicate it. Now she's in removal, so it could take a lot longer. So let's say we move, she hires us, she comes in really quickly, she hires us, we file the I-360 for VAWA really quickly, but USCIS will take a year plus to adjudicate that. She may have a court appearance or 2 in between while we're waiting for USCIS to adjudicate it. Now that they've approved it, maybe we have a court appearance 2 years from now or a year from now. And maybe we ask the judge to terminate proceedings so we don't have to go. But the judge may not the judge may not decide it right away. And that's what's happening now is we're just waiting and we contact and we ask and we write letters and we make phone calls, but the judge hasn't made a decision. The judge may not make a decision until we go to court. If we're fortunate, the judge will grant the motion. We won't have to go to court and she's going to have an interview at USCIS office, but that doesn't always happen. And every court appearance has a fee. Every interview has a fee. Every request of the court has a fee. Not every time we call them, but I mean, there's a fee to file the motion. And then maybe we have to go to court, maybe we don't have to go to court. So again, it becomes difficult to predict. I can only say what we charge for what we do, and I can almost always tell somebody what the next step is, but I can't always tell them what 2 or 3 or 4 steps are going to be because there are things that don't necessarily depend on us. If the judge doesn't deny the motion, if the judge grants the motion, then we know we're going to go to USCIS. Well, it's going to take a time for the file to be sent to the agency and for the agency to then call us for an interview. It's going to take time for the judge to make the decision. Now, if the judge doesn't approve the motion, then the judge will have to give us a trial date. Depending on the judge, that could be 2, 3, 4 years in the future. So it's hard to determine how long it's going to take because there are factors that are outside of our control. It's almost like the hurry up and wait approach. Hurry up, pay in full, give us all the documents so we can file your application. Then we wait until the government does something. Government could take 2 years, but once they've done it, now they make us move quickly. They don't, but we have to. It's not fair, but that's our reality.
Makes sense. And, VAWA actually sounds pretty complicated. So I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong. I mean, does Maria need an immigration attorney to get started on something like this?
Nobody needs an immigration attorney.
Okay.
The law doesn't require it. But the problem is she doesn't know what she doesn't know. Again, did she know that she qualified for VAWA when she came to the United States? Probably not. Did Customs and Border Patrol tell her? Maybe, probably not. If she doesn't, she comes in, doesn't speak to anybody, files for asylum, she's just going to go through the asylum process. Maybe she's fortunate and judge says, wait a minute, your spouse is a U.S. citizen? She sees the applications. Were you aware of? Maybe the judge says, did you look into? How often does that happen? Not often. But some judges do take that time and give that consideration. It's what they should do. But judges are so busy, they have so many cases, whether they want to or not, they're not looking for it. So they may not recommend it or suggest it. Or if they do, they may not give her the time to look into it. They might just say, listen, it's not my fault you didn't see an attorney. It's not my fault you waited 4 years to your trial date. And now we find out that you had something better that you could have done. Shame on you. And they'd be right. So the downside of doing it on her own is she doesn't know what she doesn't know. And this is the first application likely of this kind she's ever done. So maybe she sends the wrong form. Maybe she sends the wrong fee. Maybe she doesn't provide the right documents. Maybe that she waits 2 years and gets a request for evidence and then has to respond. Maybe she doesn't do a good job responding and gets denied. Maybe she doesn't know that she's entitled to employment authorization, so she could have gotten it and she doesn't get it all this time. So the law doesn't require her to have an attorney, but because she doesn't know what she doesn't know, there's so many ways where that could go wrong. And really, you only get one shot at this. I mean, yeah, she can file an appeal, but that's taking a relatively simple, controllable situation and making it much, much harder. I have an individual who hired me for an opinion. He had a family-based application out of Texas, and he was from Mexico, and he would travel back and forth, and he had identification travel back and forth while his case was applying. So this is 40 years ago. He's at the border. Officer interviews him. Actually, he's the one driving, but his passenger, his friend, is American, looks American, speaks fluent English, and him and the CBP agent, then it was INS, Immigration Authorization Service, had a conversation, and then my client understands that he was asked for ID. He presents his driver's license. He gets arrested for making a false claim to U.S. citizenship. He's like, "What are you talking about? I never said I was a U.S. citizen. I even showed you my employment authorization, and I showed you my immigration documents. Why would I claim to be a U.S. citizen when I'm not? I'm entitled to enter the United States." He was put into removal. He was deported. He was given an order of removal when he says he never made the claim to begin with. He's been fighting this for 40 years. He's inside the United States, married to a U.S. citizen. He has 3 U.S. citizen children, all adults, no criminal record, but judge felt he lied. And now he's trying to undo that when he never actually said, again, his words, I wasn't there either, so I don't really know. But you never know what you never know. And here he is. Now he's had some decent attorneys, he's had some bad attorneys, but 40 years filing for this that could have been avoided. That's a worst case scenario.
That sounds like it. And so, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it sounds like hiring a good immigration attorney will save you time and money in the long run. The real question is, I mean, what should somebody look for in a good immigration attorney in order to make sure that this person is legitimate?
So look, you got to do your homework, like in everything in life. You have to interview the attorney from the perspective of, well, do they know what they're talking about? So I can give you a list of things to do, but the most important part for the client is, do you trust the person? How do they treat you? When you call the law firm, how do they treat you? When you show up, whether virtually or in person, and you meet the attorney or you meet their consultant or you meet their staff, how do they treat you? Do they give you confidence? That's the number one thing, because if they're not treating you well before you hire them and you give money, they're not likely to do that afterwards. So you want to see, hey, is this somebody that's good at what they do? So where can I learn more about them? I can go to their website. Do they have videos? Do they have client testimonials? Have they been interviewed on TV? Do they have their own radio show? Do they have their own YouTube channel? Can I go and listen or hear to things they've said or done so I can see how they do things? We happen to have a YouTube channel with over 1,200 videos on it. It talks about everything from how much something costs to how I do something to, how much money should I bring to my consultation? What documents do I need? Who needs to be with me? What are my options? We have videos on all of that. And if you watch them, you will get answers to a lot of your questions. Hey, we even made a video What questions do you have to ask an immigration attorney? Are they actually an attorney? You can Google them to see, are they really an attorney? Every state has a bar association that you can look up. Have they been cited for ethics violations? If they are an attorney, is their license still valid? You might be meeting a notario, someone who says they're an attorney when they're not. Because in the US, notario is just notary public. $50 and a high school degree, and you're a notary. In some of our countries, notaries are higher and more prominent than attorneys. That's not the case in the United States. So are they an attorney? Do they have any ethical issues? Have they written a book? Are they an expert? Have they been interviewed by TV, radio, or written a book such that you can get a sense for who they are and what they're about? Have they handled your types of cases in the past? Do they have reviews? Now, how many reviews? Look, if all you have are perfect 5-star reviews and nothing negative ever, either they haven't been in business very long or something doesn't make sense. You can't be, look, as good as I think we are, some people, we piss them off. They want us to work differently than the way that we work. That's a reality. So we try to part friends. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. At the end of the day, I try to treat people the way I would want to be treated. But everybody comes from different circumstances. And sometimes it's not a good fit. So if you want the law firm to completely change what they do and how they do it to suit your wants or desires, maybe that's not a good fit. So again, do you trust the person? Do you understand the process that you're going to follow with them? Have they explained it? Have they looked at what your path is, what disqualifies you, and how you can fix it? Because too many attorneys only look for a case type. Oh, I do asylum, or I do family-based application. Well, there's 9 principal paths. Have they considered all of them? It's really important that the attorney takes a holistic approach. Help you, help your family, predict potential problems. Have they done this before? Have they had good outcomes? Is the person actually an attorney? Are they an expert in their own right? I'm not saying you can't hire an attorney with 0 experience that just passed the bar. Nothing wrong with that. Just understand who you're hiring and what you're getting. That individual is not going to have 20 years of experience. That individual is not going to have done thousands of cases like yours. But they're likely to be cheaper. At the end of the day, you have to choose who you're comfortable with, but it shouldn't be about how much does it cost. It should be how can I find the best person I can that I'm most comfortable with for what my wallet allows. Because it's about confidence. This is your life. You make the wrong decision, you might very well regret it. I've never had a single person complain to me, oh, thank you for the wonderful service. Thank you for getting me my green card, taking me out of removal, but could you have done it cheaper? I've not had a single person ever tell me that. I've also not found anybody who provides the best quality of service, the best results, and the cheapest price. It doesn't exist. You're not going to find that. If you're going to find somebody who gives you a cheaper price, they're likely going to give you less value or a less chance of a good outcome. Look, we're not magicians. When you're interviewing someone and you meet them for the first time, you don't know if they're going to do a good job. Again, you could see what they've done in the past through reviews, through videos, through testimonials to get a sense of how they've done things. But crap happens, right? So crap happens to the law could change, or you could be charged with something that could disqualify you. Life happens. Make the best choice you can with the information that you have, but take the time to make that right decision. Don't just meet the first person. If you hire on Monday because you have court on Tuesday, shame on you. If you've been here for a year and now you're approaching your first appointment and your first court appearance, and you haven't hired an attorney, shame on you. Because now the system gave you the time. Now you're going to make a hasty decision. Maybe it's the wrong one. Take your time. Make the right decision. Go with someone you feel comfortable with. Because you're going to be working together for a long time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you think about it. It's like, do your homework, do your legwork, because at the end of the day, it's not just about how long the case is going to take and whether or not you're working with a good attorney or not, but this is the rest of your life. And I get that. I think that makes a lot of sense. So, back to Maria, though. What do you think is going to happen to her and her family? Will she get legal status?
So she has a great VAWA case. I know that we've gotten cases like her approved. We've gotten harder VAWA cases approved because for her, there actually is some documentation to support her claim. So she will, again, if she has competent counsel and they do a halfway decent job, and they follow my advice, we're gonna file the I-360. We're gonna get our VAWA application approved. We're gonna move to terminate proceedings, and then we're gonna get the case remanded to USCIS and get her green card at the agency stage. If the judge tells me, well, counselor, I could grant your motion to remand, or I can give you a trial next week. I just had an opening on my calendar. Can you do it? Maybe we say, yeah, but then we're gonna have a conversation. Maybe it's not next week. Maybe it's 2 weeks. A week is too quick. Maybe we have to have a conversation with Maria and say, listen, we can get you a green card faster, but you're gonna have to pay for a trial, and we're gonna have to prepare really quickly. Or we're gonna remand it, and you'll get it over time. That doesn't really happen right now because the trial dates are so far in the future, but it could happen. So there are circumstances where she could choose to have a trial because, again, the relationship part has already been adjudicated. Extreme cruelty has only been adjudicated. It's really just about, is there anything that makes her ineligible? That's a pretty easy trial to have, but it's still a trial, which means there's always a risk.
That sounds like a happy ending for her and others who qualify for VAWA. I'm sure people watching and listening to us have questions about VAWA or immigration in general. How can they contact you?
We love to answer questions, and we try to make it easy. You can, of course, always give us a call at 888-421-9942. That's once again, 888-421-9942. Or you can visit our website at andresmecherlaw.com. And you can schedule an appointment there or submit your question there. But you can also leave your questions in the comment sections below or use the links in the video description to message us on Facebook. You can also use our Do You Qualify for Legal Status tool that you can find on our website. In less than 3 minutes, it can tell you whether you qualify for legal status in the US, and it's free. That link is also in the description. So until next time, thank you for joining us and welcome to America, an Immigrant Story. And we look forward to seeing you in our future episodes.